In the shadows of global politics, a storm is brewing, one that could change the course of history. Russia, under the iron grip of Vladimir Putin, has crossed a dangerous threshold. With unchecked power, a reign of fear, and military might that rivals the greatest forces of the world, Putin's ambitions are no longer a distant worry. They are here, at the doorstep of the West. Make sure to subscribe and stay informed as we break down how this escalating threat could impact our future and how you can prepare for the inevitable. The Kremlin's red line is fast approaching, and the question remains, will you be ready? For years, the West has relied on the assumption that nuclear deterrence, diplomacy, and economic sanctions could keep Russia's aggressive ambitions under control. Western leaders believe that Putin's expansionist goals would be restrained by the threat of retaliation, economic consequences, or international condemnation. But those assumptions have begun to crumble as Putin strengthens his hold over Russia. With each passing day, the world watches as the Kremlin pushes further into uncharted territory. What was once seen as a distant threat is now a very real and growing concern. Putin's vision of restoring Russia's former power and dominance has evolved from rhetoric to action, and the West has largely remained complacent. From Ukraine to the Baltic states, Putin's aggression has been relentless. His strategic moves are clear. The West is weak, divided, and vulnerable. But this isn't just a territorial dispute, it's a challenge to the very fabric of the global order. The West has become complacent, assuming that Russia would not dare challenge international norms. But Putin is playing a different game. He is no longer bound by the old rules. Russia's increasing military activity, both in Europe and across the globe, shows that Putin is determined to reassert Russian dominance, and he won't stop until he has achieved it. The West, meanwhile, has been slow to react, and that delay has allowed Russia to expand its influence unchecked. The question is no longer if conflict will erupt, but when. As tensions rise, the possibility of full-scale war grows more likely with each passing day. And when it comes, will we be ready? This isn't just about tanks crossing borders or fighter jets soaring through the skies. It's about a fundamental shift in the balance of global power. Putin's ideology is rooted in the belief that the West is in decline, and that Russia must seize the opportunity to take its place at the top. This isn't about making small territorial gains. It's about reshaping the world order to Russia's advantage. Putin's ambitions go far beyond Ukraine. They extend into the heart of Europe, threatening the very institutions that have kept peace for the past several decades. NATO, the European Union, and the United States' global influence are all in his crosshairs. We have witnessed the slow unraveling of diplomatic solutions. Putin's aggressive actions in Ukraine have shown the world that he is willing to defy international laws, treaties, and even humanitarian concerns to further his goals. The annexation of Crimea in 2014 was a stark demonstration that Russia would not hesitate to seize land, break agreements, and challenge the sovereignty of neighboring nations. Since then, Russia has continued to escalate its military presence in key regions, from the Black Sea to the Arctic, with no signs of slowing down. The use of hybrid warfare tactics, cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, and covert operations has further destabilized the West, making it increasingly difficult to mount a coordinated response. The Kremlin has proven that it is willing to use any means necessary to advance its agenda, even at the expense of international peace. But Putin's goals are not just limited to territorial expansion. There is a deeper ideological component to his actions. For years, Putin has portrayed himself as the defender of traditional values against the supposed moral decay of the West. He has capitalized on the growing disillusionment with liberal democracy, portraying the West as weak, decadent, and morally bankrupt. In contrast, Russia, under Putin's leadership, is presented as a strong, united force that values stability, order, and tradition. This narrative has resonated with many Russians, as well as with political movements in the West that seek to challenge the liberal democratic order. At the same time, Putin has worked tirelessly to undermine the global institutions that have kept the peace since the end of World War II. NATO, the European Union, the United Nations. These institutions are seen by Putin as obstacles to his vision of a new world order, one in which Russia once again assumes its rightful place at the top of the global hierarchy. Through political manipulation, economic leverage, and military intervention, Russia has sought to weaken or dismantle these institutions, opening the door for a new era of Russian dominance. The cracks are already showing. The West is no longer the unified superpower it once was. Divisions have deepened, both within countries and across the globe. Economic instability, political polarization, and social unrest are on the rise. These cracks have made the West vulnerable, and Russia is exploiting them. Putin has cleverly manipulated global markets, engineered cyber attacks, and stoked the fires of division to weaken Western resolve. In doing so, he's carefully preparing for a confrontation, one where the West may not be ready. The reality of global conflict is staring us in the face. War, whether nuclear or conventional, is becoming more likely. The more the West hesitates, the more powerful Putin becomes. The question is not whether conflict will happen, but whether we will be prepared for it. Are we ready to defend our way of life? Are we ready to face the consequences of an all-out war with a nation as powerful and unpredictable as Russia? The answer, for most of us, is no. The majority of people are unaware of the threat or simply unwilling to face the reality of the situation. But the truth is, we are running out of time. If we fail to act now, the consequences could be catastrophic. Our cities, our homes, and our families are at risk. The time to prepare is now, before the storm hits. We must ask ourselves, if war comes, will we be ready? You need a plan, and that plan needs to be comprehensive. It's not just about having supplies, though that's an important part. You need to secure your family's safety, fortify your home, and stock up on essentials. Water, food, medical supplies, and other survival gear will be critical when the grid goes down, supply chains are disrupted, and chaos ensues. But physical survival is just the beginning. You'll need to protect yourself from biological, chemical, and radiological threats. You'll need to have a means of filtering the air and water, and a way to communicate when all systems fail. You'll need to understand the risks you face and plan accordingly, whether for a long-term survival scenario or a temporary disruption. But perhaps the most important part of your survival plan is your mental state. You must be resilient. You need to be ready for the worst-case scenario and remain calm when chaos strikes. The ability to think clearly and act decisively will make the difference between life and death. War with Russia would bring unimaginable challenges, and it will be those who are mentally prepared, those who have the presence of mind to make the right decisions in the moment, who will survive. With resilience and determination, you can face even the toughest of situations. While the physical elements of survival are crucial, it's important not to overlook the societal breakdown that could occur. If conflict breaks out, we could see widespread disruptions to the economy, food supply chains, and public services. The government's ability to respond and maintain order will likely be compromised, leaving communities to fend for themselves. Whether it's defending your neighborhood from looters or finding new sources of food and water, you need to be self-sufficient. Building local networks of trust and mutual assistance can make all the difference in the early days of a crisis. The collapse of global systems may come swiftly. The power grids may fail, financial markets could crash, and chaos could reign in the streets. As Putin's power continues to grow unchecked, it's crucial that we prepare now for a future where survival will depend on individual readiness, self-sufficiency, and resilience. Russia may not be the only threat we face, but it is the most immediate, and it is rising faster than we can imagine. Putin's red line is fast approaching. His unchecked power threatens not just our borders, but our way of life. Whether it's through cyber attacks, economic destabilization, or outright military conflict, the threat is real. The fabric of the global order is fraying, and it's only a matter of time before the situation escalates. The West can no longer afford to remain passive. The time to act is now. The question is, will you be ready when the storm hits? The consequences of Putin's unchecked power are dire, and the world as we know it may never be the same. As tensions continue to mount, the coming conflict could be one of the most defining and devastating events in modern history. If you don't take action now, you may find yourself unprepared when it's too late. It's time to safeguard your future, secure your family, and get ready for the worst. Subscribe now to stay informed, get the tools you need, and ensure you're prepared for whatever comes next. With the right information and the right preparation, you can face the unknown with confidence. The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear. Those who prepare today will have a fighting chance tomorrow. When the Kremlin's red line is crossed, will you be ready?